Station, this is Houston on 2 for Thomas. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, Thomas, yes, I'm ready. Well, I think I'm ready. Go ahead.
European Space Agency, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Jules at the European Astronaut Center in Cologne. How do you hear me?
Jules, this is Thomas on board the space station. I read you loud and clear. How do you read me?
Bonjour Thomas, on t'entend très bien et nous avons ici des journalistes qui sont réunis à Cologne qui attendent de te poser.
Hello Thomas, we hear you very clearly. We have some journalists here in Cologne who are prepared to ask you some questions.
Et on commence tout de suite avec la première question.
We'll start right away with the first question.
Bonjour Thomas, je suis Gaëlle Joly de France Info. Vous allez être notre envoyé spatial pendant tous ces mois.
Hello Thomas, this is France Info, and we've been especially assigned to you. You've been here for several months. What is your first question is, how do you feel? How is your body adapting?
Thomas, please switch on your mic.
Thomas, please switch on your mic.
Apart le fait que j'ai oublié mon micro.
Apart from the fact that I forgot my microphone, we've adapted very quickly. We were not ill at all. Everybody feels extremely well. Finally working. It seems extremely natural. After a few hours, we get oriented, and the three-dimensional effects worked very well. I feel a little bit swollen, perhaps, because we have a flight of blood and body fluids toward the skin, but this is normal. After a few weeks or months, this will resolve itself. We are adapting slowly to the ISS, which is immense. We have to orient ourselves a little bit, but we're pretty well settled in. But all of the people here on this mission are veterans who know everything by heart, memorized. Since Monday, I've been working pretty well. Very good.
Je ne sais pas si vous m'avez entendu. Est-ce que vous dormez bien?
I don't know if you heard me. I asked you whether you sleep well up there in the sky.
Ah, pardon, oui, non, j'avais pas entendu.
I beg your pardon. No, I hadn't heard. I sleep very well. I sleep like a baby. It's very agreeable here. We sleep by floating. We are attached to the wall. Our little individual cabinets or cubicles are just around the side of the camera. You can't see it. So we're attached to the wall. Our arms float a little bit. It's extremely restful. I find this to be, once again, rather natural. I feel extremely well. And all for the better? Well, might as well. We're going to be doing this for 6 months.
Bonjour Thomas.
Hello, Thomas. This is Ms. Chapelle from TFA. I would like to know whether the space station is the way you had imagined it.
Bonjour Christine.
Hello, Christine. Now listen, it's much better than I'd imagined. It's true that we were very familiar with the distribution of the modules and the equipment because we trained for it for 7 years. I've been working for 7 years on this, so we know every last nut and bolt. But what's striking here is the freedom, the feeling of freedom. We can do pretty much what we want here. Also, the manner of working. We cannot let our tools escape, for example, or the microphone escape. Otherwise, we'll find it in a very different place from where we left it, which happened to me 30 years ago, or 30 seconds ago after I arrived. But it's a new way of working, which is much more comfortable than on land. And I'm not even talking about the view. Unfortunately, the view, I've not been able to see much of the view. But this weekend, I plan to spend a good part of my time in the cupola and to take some nice photographs and then look around a little bit this weekend.
Raconte-nous quelle est
Tell us about
la journée type dans l'ISS?
How does the day pass in the ISS?
Alors la journée type dans l'ISS, on va
Well, a typical day in the ISS, so we start about 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we have an hour or an hour and a half to prepare ourselves, to take a shower, to have breakfast, etc., the way you would on land. And then at 7:30, we begin with a major conference with all of the control center folks in Munich, in Germany. And so we go over the program for the day. We ask questions. They respond to the questions we've posed. And then we start pretty much for the daily marathon. We are helped and framed by the control center, which responds to our questions. We make a lot of exchanges by radio with the control center. And so the nominal plan has to do with activities to maintain the station. For example, check the entire water system to be sure that no undesirable bacteria are in the water system. I've already engaged in certain experiences. The experiences or experiments that were planned for my mission have already begun on. One with an innovative surface, which does not allow the bacteria to adhere to it.
Et une pour le traitement de l'eau qui faisait partie de mes activités d'hier. Il y a aussi
another experiment having to do with the water treatment. There's right here between my feet, there is a part of the equipment. All of this scientific equipment is scattered pretty much all around. That's what we spend most of the day on. Also, we take care of repairs. We know, for example, we hadn't planned on it, but we came actually prepared to repair the toilets. We have utilized our repair equipment, so we think that the toilet should work very well from now on. So I hope.
This is Petra from Reuters Television. I have a question in English. Have you spoken to your family and friends yet? And how is it for them to talk to somebody who's up in space?
So yes, I did speak to them. Actually, we were very lucky because here we have the IP phone, so we can call pretty much any number on the ground. And it was great for them because, you know, seeing the rocket launch is very impressive. So it was hard emotionally for everybody, maybe more for them than for me, because from inside the rocket is just like in the simulator. It shakes a little bit more, and you feel the G's. But other than that, you're pretty much used to it. But after this, so I kind of disappear in the sky. So it's good for them to finally see me and talk to me, and it makes the whole thing a little bit more normal. So that was very reassuring for them that we're able to talk, and that's good for me because it's just like being on a business trip. Actually, it's just a 6 months, absolutely unbelievable business trip, but that's what it is, and I get to talk to them as often as I can. And this weekend we'll have our first video conference, so I'm hoping to show them around the ISS a little bit.
Thomas, can you rapidly translate this response into French?
Oui, avec plaisir, Jules. Oui, je parle.
Yes, Jules, I'm very happy to. I often talk to my family members that's close to me. I can call them every day, which reassures them. They saw me disappear on a rocket out into space. It's important after that we can see and speak to each other. So almost every day I speak for a few minutes to my family and friends, and sometimes during the weekend we have a video conference. And I hope next week I'll have them visit the ISS a little bit, just as I'm showing it to you in a limited fashion.
Bonjour Thomas,
Hello Thomas, Mr. Rodez from NFE. Well, this of course was the most incredible adventure of your life. Can you tell us a little bit about the few hours that preceded your takeoff? How did they go?
Oui, c'était assez spécial.
Well, it was rather special. There's a lot of ritual and steps you have to follow. Our Russian partners have been accustomed to launching men into space for many years, and it's pretty much the same since the beginning, which is rather interesting. We take our last dinner on land, and we're checked out by the doctors. We're fully disinfected from head to foot, so we don't bring any viruses into the station. We then find ourselves at the Soyuz assembly building. We test our spacesuits, speak to our family through the glass, and then we have a greeting with the Russian leaders of the program, and then we say goodbye to our families. We then take off toward the rocket. It's a long, long climb, it seems like, interminable in fact. I'd never climbed into the actual Soyuz, and then were helped to descend into the capsule by Russian technicians. We set ourselves and install ourselves in, and then we check all the procedures, pre-takeoff procedures. We listen to a little bit of music. There's a special pianist that, by the way, which I've shared on Facebook and social media for those who are interested in the pianist who plays the music we listen to. And then, of course, we take off, something we've done 10 times before. We then shake the hands of our colleagues, and the acceleration G-forces continue to increase and increase and increase. And by the end of the first stage, we're really crushed down into the Soyuz. And then when the first stage drops off, there's a feeling of slowing down a little bit, and then we begin to accelerate again with the second stage, the third stage for about 1 minute and 48 seconds of acceleration. And then finally we're shoved off after the third stage, just like a kick in the pants, and we begin to float off. Then by that time we've arrived in space, and immediately we began to do our work, because there are maneuvers that we have to do to be sure that we're in the right orbit. After about 6 or 7 hours after takeoff, we were able to sleep. And there, we all collapsed because we had had a long, good day. The second day, more maneuvers. The third day, we had the rendezvous with the space session. And after that, there's a considerable emotion associated with reaching this space station at the space, which is floating. The first time we see it in person, it's kind of like a slap across the face. This is not like television or photographs. We're actually there. And then we find our colleagues, our friends. And so that was, it's been quite an adventure. Well, since we've seen you looking in every direction, even though you knew the space station by heart, or had memorized it, this is chaotically arranged as it seems to be. No, but it isn't. No, the truth is it's very well arranged. We have this impression because, of course, we see cables and equipment in every direction. But the performance is that there are people in the control center who follow this. There's a tremendous database that we, every time I look for a little object in particular, for example, the flag behind me, ESA flag. I asked them where or can I find that. There are millions of places to look with millions of objects behind panels and underneath the floor, the ceiling. There's no use looking around for those things. And I call control center, and they tell me, well, you find it exactly in that particular spot. And so I open that drawer, and I find exactly what I need. It's amazing to be able to find that we arrive very precisely at what we're looking for. And every day begins with searching out the equipment. They send us pretty much all around the station by following the various procedures. They tell us, you see, look to the left, to the right, you'll see your equipment here and there. It's very important to put them right back to where they belong. And that's part of what the equipment, the teams or the crew's responsibility is to put everything right back where it goes. If you put something into the wrong box, as we did yesterday, for example, when we were trying to repair the toilets, I had to be very careful to put everything right back where it goes, after which, if we don't do that, things get lost. So it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that I think happens every day by the crews, and especially by the control center, to be sure everything's in its place.
Bonjour, Thomas.
Hello, Thomas.
How, if at all, could I ask you, has your sporting background, your rugby and your judo, your enthusiasm for those two sports, how has that in any way helped you as an astronaut, both in physical terms and in terms of values?
Well, it's a great question. I think there's really two factors. So I like team sports because they taught me how to be a team player, and that's something we have to use every day in our job as an astronaut. It's not the only job, obviously. Lots of jobs require good communication, leadership, followership, and things like that. So you learn this not at school most of the time, but in all the activities that you're going to do after 5 p.m. So that's one thing for me. And then it gave me the taste for trying, the taste for challenging myself, a taste for, I don't want to say competition because it has a negative connotation, but a taste for overcoming my my limitations, let's say. So judo in particular was huge for me because it teaches you respect as a kid. It teaches you patience. It teaches you that effort is valued, and it's not about talents. It's about how many times you're going to repeat this or that move, and you're going to finally master it. It's how much you train. So hard work, patience, respect. All those values I got from judo and rugby. So it's been huge for me. I'll try to talk about it a little bit more along the mission. I think we have a few events on the plan in coordination with that. So yeah, it's been huge for me. I hope to talk about it more. I hope to inspire maybe kids to do their best, not only at school, but also in their after-school activities.
In French, Thomas, the question has having to do with sport. You've played rugby and judo. The question is how sport has contributed to the values that the abilities and qualities that you have been able to develop through sport, and how does this help you in your current work? Well, in fact, sports have been for me, they've been a major part of my youth, and my daily activity even today. You have to stay in good physical shape to be an astronaut, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that it's a team sport like rugby that teaches you how to play together, how to be a team player, how to communicate. It teaches you how to, manage your frustrations, how to be a leader, and sometimes how to be a follower. As our American friends say, you can't always be the leader, but you do your best, and this is part of the job. Let's see, these are the kinds of things that I learned, for example, in rugby, and also to set myself a challenge and to meet it. This is all very important in the professional life as well, because you need to apply determination. I've learned that, and judo in particular has taught me such things as respect and patience, a taste for work, like certain ethical values, certain movements also that we repeat a million times before we master them. You cannot expect to master it the first time. You must not become frustrated. You have to accept defeat. You have to work hard. In all of these ways, you learn that in school, yes, but I think you also learn a lot of that in sports, in activities, which are part of teamwork, associative after school. We'll talk a lot about that during the mission, about school, because it's very important. It's important that kids, that youth do their best in school, that's sure, but also I believe to be interested in everything, to be open, because that is the model that makes you succeed in life.
Thomas, have you brought any sporting items with you into space?
Yes, there's a few. So first of all, we do 2.5 hours of exercise. So we do running on a treadmill. The treadmill is actually horizontal, so we run on the wall like this. Not here in Columbus, but in another module. We have a fantastic weight machine. So obviously it's not weight, it's air pressure. But every day we lift on board the ISS. So it's not the most fun sports, but we have to do it to stay in good shape. Otherwise, you lose muscle mass, you lose bone mass, and you're simply too weak when you come back to space. So thanks to all these new machines that we have on the ISS, we come back in a good shape. But also I brought a couple more fun items. There's a rugby ball. There's some other things that I cannot disclose right now because I'm hoping there'll be some other opportunities to talk about them. But even here on the ISS, I just happened to open a bag before this activity, and I found a variety of balls. There was a basketball, small basketball, U.S. football, small soccer, European football ball. So I think on the weekends, on the Sundays, when we'll be relaxing a little bit, there's a good fun in perspective.
Bonsoir Thomas, Olivier Sanguy.
Good evening, Thomas. This is Thomas Sanguy. Here's a question from Michel Chevalet of television. Do you think that 48 hours spent on the Soyuz helped you to acclimate to the ISS, even though it is a smaller space. Hello. That's a good question. I'm not really able to give you a good answer because I haven't been able to make a comparison, but maybe in the Soyuz, we're a little bit sort of on the ceiling on one side. The Soyuz is so small that you have to really use every available space, and so we spent a lot of time to do a little bit of become accustomed to deal in a in a three-dimensional space. We had to eat, we had to live. There was three of us in that small Soyuz space. It's like driving in a small car for a very long road trip, but maybe that helped us. I don't know. Regarding your question, all I can say is that I'm lucky with my colleagues that everything has worked out well. About 30% of the people are a little bit ill. That doesn't matter. It disappears after a few days. But we didn't get space sickness in the small Soyuz volume. It wasn't the most comfortable quarters, but we're fine. I don't know how Michel would answer to this question, but I'm glad that I didn't get sick. That's it.
Merci beaucoup, Thomas.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Here is, we wish you a very nice day in orbit, and we'll see you soon.
Merci à tout le monde.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you on behalf of all the astronauts, and we'll see you soon.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes our event.
Thank you to all.
Houston, that was great.
From the European Space Agency station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.